All right, Quinn, I think we are officially live.
We are. Well, let me start off by saying happy Professional Speakers Day.
Woo! Listen, we made it happen. I'm so excited. I did not know that Professional Speakers Day was a thing until you brought it to my attention. And I'm so excited that you did because I think what's about to happen over the course of the next 90 minutes is going to be something that is hopefully becomes an annual celebration, hopefully live in a coliseum somewhere with thousands of people that we can start to love on y'all and hug y'all. But I think this is going to be something really, really special. And I don't know any other organizations that are really celebrating and recognizing Professional Speakers Day. And so to everybody watching live and everybody that's checking out the replay, welcome. I'm super excited about this.
Yeah, absolutely. You said a key word, Coliseum. Like, forget a stage. Like, we're striving for Coliseum status. But you're right, and I think that our twist is going to be very special and unique. You know, we both have been students studying, the speaking industry for years. That's one of the things that have made us really good friends. But I think that taking this day, not only recognizing it, but bringing in voices that have been successful in their own lane, in their own right, in this industry, because some people just feel like you just open up your mouth and talk and people pay you. They don't understand that it's a whole industry. So I'm excited. We definitely have some powerhouses, and I agree with you. I think that this could be a beautiful collaboration between both of our brands, but also too, I'm just grateful that you and I, Brian, had the insight to kind of trailblaze this, right? It could have been like, well, we don't see anybody else doing it. Why don't us do it ourselves? And that's what we're doing. And we got some really good people that are on this ride with us. So I'm excited to get this conversation, to get this, started. Did you want to give some information just about Professional Speakers Day?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I was underwhelmed with the definition of what we read online about it. But here's my thing. I know when I got started in the speaking industry, and Quinn, we'll be able to share the story of us and, the amazing other folks that we have coming up here in a moment. But here was my thing. When I first started Black Speakers Network, it was kind of born out of a need to really diversify the voice of Black speakers. And I just really wanted other people to hang with. Like I was out here, going around myself, Depot, around the time that we met you at Morgan State University. I knew that fundamentally there was something really special about this industry, and there was something special about people who decided to kind of break through the fear and break through this idea that, hey, I may not necessarily, some speakers, we have different hangups. Like most people don't even like the sound of their own voice. The thing where they, you record yourself and you hear it back later and you're like, oh, that's me. There's a lot of mental, social kind of societal things embedded in us, I think even at an early age, that prevent people from utilizing their voice. And for me, particularly being an introvert and someone that really, really enjoys time to process information by myself instead of on stage of hundreds of people, it's really a thing where you have to overcome a lot to get to a place where not only you feel comfortable using your voice to share a message that could be potentially very valuable, but you feel confident in doing that. And it takes years to kind of get there. And so I think people are calling me because of my people trying to get in. So yes, in general, it's a situation where I believe that the power of our voice is incredible. It's life-changing. And we've seen this time and time again. It's the reason why our tagline is "Speak Up, Your Audience Awaits." I really believe, Quinn, that each of us has an audience that we are called to serve. And unfortunately, there are some things that fundamentally hold us back from doing that. But I believe the answer to that is community. Communities like Speak Black Woman, communities like Black Speakers Network, when you can see examples, when you see people like a Dr. Will Moreland, a Pam Perry, an Aurora, a Dr. Helen Holton, a Norma Hollis, people that have gone before us and the people that are coming along. And it's like, wow, like if they can do this, it might be a shot that I can do this. And not only just I'm not, and this kind of goes beyond the conversation of just speaking, but it also, Quinn, is not only are these people doing it, but they are also building capacity for so many other people to do it in a way that's easier, faster, and better than ever. And so to me, none of that was in the definition of Professional Speaker Day on the website. But when I think about like my own journey, when I think about the 14,000 plus members of BSN, when I think about the impact of the individuals that we're about to introduce, that's really where that sentiment is coming from.
No, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, and we've been involved in different speaking organizations, whether we went to Toastmasters or been a part of, National Speakers Association events. I think that this is a day to be celebrated, but more importantly, with people who look like us, because again, it is a profession that everybody might not know or understand. And I remember very early on in my career, I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to be a speaker. I just knew that I was a messenger. I knew that I was a vehicle to be able to translate certain things. And to be honest with you, Norma Hollis was one of the very first Black women that I saw in the industry. I was like, wait a minute, somebody who looks like me who's in this industry. And literally, I'm still trying to figure out where I got the money. Like Brian, at the time, I didn't know Brian, right? I was in DC, I was in college, I was going to Howard, and everything that I was finding was literally on the West Coast in LA. And I don't even know if I ate for like that week, but I scraped up some money to get a plane ticket to get over there and to learn. So I'm excited to kick off this conversation. It's going to be amazing. So if you are a speaker, if you want to speak, if you have spoken on stages, maybe it's your own stage or maybe it's something that you wanted to create, you are in for a treat, because the people that we have that we're going to have this conversation with, I promise you, are going to leave you so many nuggets, so much information, so much jewels, so much gems that you can't Google and it's not in a book. This is going to come from straight experience, y'all. So make sure that you have your pen and paper and that you are locked in for the next probably hour to 90 minutes, because who we have on this panel to celebrate, to honor, and to amplify not just speakers, but speakers who look like us. Let me tell you, you're going to be in for a treat.
That is. Yeah, so let's do it. Let's go in. So Quinn, I'm excited. Thank you again for doing this, and let's rock and roll. I see a ton of people. We haven't even had a chance to get to the comments yet, but we got a ton of people from BSN and Speak Black Women that are like chomping at the bit. So we ready to rock and roll.
All right, well, let's do this again. Hello, everyone. My name is Quinn Conyers, and what I do is broadcast the brilliance of Black women in business. I show them how to turn conversations into cash so they can profit from public speaking. And when I am not amplifying the voices of Black women, I am partnering with event planners and transforming their average event into an epic experience as an energetic MC. And today I have the honor and pleasure of introducing a few people on this illustrious panel as we celebrate and honor Professional Speakers Day. But more importantly, we're highlighting Black voices. The very first person to have the opportunity and honor and pleasure of introducing, who is going to give her perspective, her thought leadership to this industry and how she's been doing it, not even just doing it, living it, breathing it, leaving a legacy in this industry, is Norma Hollis. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Norma Hollis, she is a change agent who impacts not the city, not the state, but the world in multiple ways. She writes programs for human development as well as around the theme of authenticity. So if you want to be fake or phony, tune out. But if you want to be real, you and authentic, Norma Hollis is the person that you need to tune into. And she turns these different types of programs into training processes to deepen self-awareness and expand consciousness. Norma and her programs have been a catalyst for people who are open to gaining a new perspective on self and living. She was the first, y'all, the first. I want y'all to write that down with a capital F. First Black woman to own a speakers bureau for Black speakers. And she now operates a coaching business to assist people to find their authentic path to success, whether that's personal, professional, or in their business. Norma believes that all challenges can be overcome if you are aligned in authentic ways. She especially likes to speak with speakers and helping them to find their authentic voice and share it on any stage, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person. She is the author of numerous books. And you know that if you are a speaker and your voice is not written on paper, what are you doing? You need to write a book. So she has written numerous books, including The Process to Become a Professional Speaker. And I might have to add, The That was the very first book that I purchased in LA as a college student in 2006. So I'm eager, I'm excited to literally see her, but her actually one of my very first mentors in this business. So welcome to Professional Speakers Day, Norma Hollis.
Well, thank you, Quinn. I love that introduction and your great energy. I see why you are an energetic MC. And I just have to say, I am so proud of you in terms of your growth since we met in 2006 and you came out and spent some time with me. We had a great time and you are just rocking it and rolling it. And you are clearly a role model and I'm very proud of you. And Brian, it's great to meet you too and be a part of your great organization. And thank you both for the invitation.
Thank you.
Absolutely. No, it's our pleasure. I think this is like the Justice League, the Avengers, like, I don't know what you want to call it, but we're bringing together, we're pulling out the big guns for the Professional Speaker Day. So I am super excited. So I have the pleasure. And by the way, if we haven't met yet, my name is Brian Oles, of course, founder and president here at Black Speakers Network, where our mission is to equip, connect, and inspire the next generation of Black professional speakers. And I have the honor of introducing our next speaker, and that is Pam Perry. And if you have not met Pam, you definitely don't live in Detroit, first of all. And second of all, you must be, new to this whole media situation, this whole PR world, because Pam is an award-winning communications professional. She has been called, and this is, a fair distinction, as the PR guru by many, but by Publishers Weekly, but been recognized in many major publications. And she has a lifetime of experience. We're talking to a 20-year career veteran in the areas of marketing, public relations, journalism, but she has her home right there in Detroit, which I've been up to a couple times. Had an accidental Uber ride to Canada. Maybe talk about that later on one of our book launch events. But she has been an absolute treasure to the speaking industry, and I will say the PR and marketing industry as a whole, because she is one of those individuals who are absolutely passionate about making sure that speakers, authors, coaches not just show up, but show up well and are market ready to connect with the audience that they're called to serve. And so in addition to all of that, she's also the founder and publisher of Speakers Magazine. And so Speakers Magazine, if you see that massive magazine behind me, if you're not familiar, that's what it looks like. Speakers Magazine is the official magazine of Black Speakers Network, and they are celebrating 4 years of publishing this very incredible publication every single month. They have not skipped a beat, and one of the reasons why we invited Pam to this conversation is that if you look inside the pages of Speakers Magazine, on the cover and every article, every opportunity that you see represented, you will notice that the faces are faces of color. They're people who are making an impact, and some names you will recognize and some names you'll be like, I didn't know this person was doing that. And that's part of the magic of what you're created with Speakers Magazine. And so Pam and I have this cool story of our first conversation. She had just launched the first issue of Speakers Magazine, and I was in a parking lot of Dunkin' Donuts, Quinn, and we had this incredible conversation, and then the rest has been history. So Pam, I'm so excited that you're here, and thanks for being a part of Professional Speakers Day here.
Oh, thank you, Brian. That is so cool. And Quinn, just thank you so much. And then we met in Detroit as well with her signature brand orange. I love it. She's always on brand. And Brian in your signature blue as well, and Quinn in her red. So I love all things speaker, PR, and branding. Been doing it for many, many years. Didn't realize that was going to be a career for me. I just knew that I love being around energetic Black speakers, people that were messengers. It probably helped a little bit that I lived next door to my pastor. So growing up, so I think I always loved the voice and the charisma of Black speakers. I didn't know that would later just translate into my company. He kind of prophetically told me that when I was younger, but I have worked with some of the speakers that you have heard of, from Dr. Cindy Trim to TD Jakes to the late Dr. Miles Monroe. and people in between that just are really trying to make a difference in the world. And I am here to be their hype man, right? I am really here to promote them and make sure that they are showing up and shining where they're supposed to be shining to their audiences. So I just thank you all for inviting me for on Professional Speakers Day. And we just got the new issue the other day. This is another one that Letitia Nicole is on the cover as well. I just love this. I love really spotlighting speakers that you may not have heard of or may have heard of, but we bring the stories out and bring them to life. And I'm unapologetic that they are Black speakers.
Absolutely.
And they're wonderful. I think they're the best on the planet, personally. That's just the way I
Well,
feel.
no one on this call is going to disagree with you, Pam Perry. We agree that Black speakers are amazing, and we are excited to have you. And you are so right. I mean, every time I get my issue of Speakers Magazine, I can't wait to, learn something new about the speakers that I know, but then also be introduced to speakers that I didn't know about that I will follow. And that's been really thanks to, your magazine. So thank you for amplifying and highlighting our voices. We absolutely love it. So we have Norma Hollis already here. We have Pam Perry here. And listen, we are just getting this party started. If you're just joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Quinn Conyers. I am really the visionary behind the Speak Black Woman movement. And we have Brian Olds of Black Speakers Network. And we wanted to make sure that we honor and celebrate Professional Speakers Day. But we got a twist, y'all. We want to make sure that we highlight and honor and celebrate this day, but also showing you speakers who look, feel, and have similarities to people who look like us, melanated people. So you're in the right place if that is good for you. So you've been introduced to Norma Hollis. You've been introduced to Pam Perry. Up next, we have Dr. Helen Holton, who is joining the conversation. And if you are not familiar with Dr. Helen Holton, she is a living legend in Baltimore and beyond. The Honorable, the incomparable Helen Holton is recovering elected official after 20 years. So that means she has used her voice to advance politics and anything in regards to leadership and service. It was her reality. Today, she delivers and earns her expertise as a professional coach, a trainer, a speaker, and an award-winning author. Dr. Helen is an interculturalist, and she brings perspective to local issues with a global impact. She is intrigued by the intersection of race, gender, political power, and privilege, and how they can shape the life as we are guided to a more inclusive community of belonging. With an array of credentials and certification, she builds bridges across diverse industries and sectors and people. She believes that living life authentically, this is where Norma Hollis and her would be best friends, in my opinion, without apology. She believes that speaking your truth is powerful, and she looks forward to bringing light to decades of darkness. As she also is a believer, while God is her number one leader, her role model, and her champion for life. And when she is not pushing the envelope towards creating a more inclusive equity, Dr. Helen is a foodie. She loves to travel. She loves golf, spa treatments, socializing with her friends. And if you can believe this, she even has time to be a part, not even be a part, but lead the National Speakers Association DC chapter as the second Black woman to hold the presidential position. So I'm excited. I am honored to sit at the feet, and all of you can take your pen out and learn from Dr. Helen Holton. Welcome to Professional Speakers Day.
Well, thank you so much, Quinn and Brian, for the incredible work that you do to lift Black speakers and especially Black women. Understanding what that means in the world today is definitely one of those niche markets that it's inevitable for you not to succeed and contribute to the inclusivity of which this world should look like. We all know, or maybe we don't all know, but diversity is the conglomerate of all similarities and differences, but it's inclusion that makes diversity work. And so what you're doing is pushing the envelope so the world can recognize the gifts, talents, truths, excellence, and badassery of what Black people bring to any environment we find ourselves in. And so I'm just elated to be here with you today. And as the president of the National Speakers Association DC chapter, representing the larger geographic region, and Brian and I have started this conversation years before I got to where I am today on how do we do more together? Because what I know is we are so much better together and have so much more to bring to what's happening in this world, and especially in this nation, as it pertains to inclusivity. So I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have today to further our collective agendas. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. And Dr. Helen, before I pass it over to Brian, you said something that was so interesting. When we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, period, a lot of times we just think about skin color and race. But what I love about this conversation, we're talking about diversity in regards to industry experience as speakers. We are diverse in how long we've been in the industry. Some of you have 10 years, 20 years, 30 years experience, right? So that's diverse. Some of us are millennials. Some of us are baby boomers. Some of us are Gen Z, Gen Y. So that is diversity itself. So this conversation is going to be rich. It's going to be meaty because we're not only covering cultural as far as we are Black speakers. We're talking about what does it mean to be a Black speaker in 2021 versus what did it mean to be a Black speaker in 1971? Completely different animals, right? So I'm glad to have this conversation. So I'm going to kick it over to Brian, and he's going to bring up our next panelist. I hope y'all fired up because I listen, I'm ready. Pen in hand.
Absolutely. Anytime we have a 30-minute intro, it's going to be live. I mean, come on. We this is like WrestleMania. Okay. So I get the pleasure of introducing my friend from the West Coast, all the way from California, and that is Aurora Gregory. Now, when I first started Black Speakers Network, I was like, okay, I know a little bit about speaking, but I ain't going to be trying to, do this thing by myself. And Aurora was one of the first people I reached out to when it came to individuals who are not only speakers, but also individuals who have seen the speaking industry from a very specific lens. And like the thing that just kept coming up as a topic was speaker bureaus. And I think at the time, I don't think this is necessarily the mindset now, but everybody kept asking me, like, is VSN a speaker bureau? Are you starting a speakers bureau? Are you being a speakers bureau? I'm like, no, I don't, that's not what we're doing. But I definitely want to have somebody who, has experience working with large events, booking speakers, bringing people in, paying big contracts, all that good stuff. And that was Aurora. And so the cool part about her story, and I always love talking about this because like she's so transparent about kind of where she started and where she's been. But as an 8th grader, she actually participated and was a finalist in her first speech contest. Now, she did not win, but the experience left her, that was kind of like the catalyst and kickstart for her journey as a communicator. So fast forward to today, 2021, she's a business coach, speaker, mentor, certified master marketer. You have to tell us, what that means, but certified master marketer. And she focuses on making sure that speakers, really any knowledge experts, but particularly speakers are able to effectively build their business that they love. And so you may have heard of a book called Get Picked. We definitely is one of the earliest books that we adopted in Black Speakers Network. And it's tips, tricks, and tools for creating an irresistible speaker proposal. She's the co-author of that book, and she's gone on to create supplemental products such as the Get Picked speaker proposal template that we utilize every single week within Black Speakers Network. And it is, I think, the #1 selling digital product that we have in our entire ecosystem. And so people absolutely are loving the things that you're putting together, Aurora. But in addition to that, she's also a co-author of the book behind me, Speak Up, Ultimate Guide to Dominating in the Speaking Industry. And so absolutely has been a fixture within our community for a really long time. Now, she has this wide range of experience that I'm really, really excited about because we mentioned what she's doing on the speaking side, but marketing communications, public relations, Pam Perry, this is kind of like getting into your world. She has supported clients in a wide range of industries, including consumer products, financial services, and technology to achieve their communications goals. So she's worked with companies like JP Morgan, Fifth Third Bank, Bank of America, Capital One, BB&T, and the list goes on. And so I know from experience that Aurora not only walk the walk, but talk the talk when it comes to ensuring that speakers are well positioning themselves to be able to maximize their opportunities. And, we always talk about, these paid high level keynote speaking opportunities. She is the one that has consistently got those speakers in the door. And so, Aurora, super excited that you're here to be a part of this conversation, and welcome to Professional Speaking Day.
Oh, Brian, thank you so much. And we do have such a fun history and a fun story. Just at a high level, Brian and I met over a tweet, if you can believe that. So we'll save the details of that story for another time. But Brian, I'm so excited to be here. So excited to be a part of celebrating this day. Quinn, I have admired you for such a long time. I know we've been part of other conversations, but it's great to, in this small setting, just to be able to tell you how much I just admire and sometimes are in awe of the way that you teach and guide and help people just walk and fulfill their greatness. So I'm just very appreciative of what you do as well. So and excited to be a part of this panel. The speaking space has evolved at an epic pace in the last year and a half. And I've seen it from a couple of different perspectives. So I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit about that and helping speakers, just continue to move in greatness and build businesses they love.
Sweet. This is coming together. I like it. And so I'm going to kick it to Quinn. Thank you so much, Aurora. So I'm going to kick it to Quinn. We have one more speaker, if you can believe that. We got space on the screen. This is going to be powerful. So Quinn, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. And let me tell y'all, if y'all don't have that book, Get Picked. It really is a great book. I bought it personally from her as well. So, we definitely support each other. And it's a great book on if you want to stand out, because a lot of people are requesting RFPs or proposals, and you just don't want to wing that process. You really want a structure and a strategy. And, Aurora is a great way to be able to show you how to do that. So we're going to round out this awesome day and bring on some testosterone to the panel, right? Because, is a little heavy woman, but that's okay. That's okay. We're going to make sure that we all have an opportunity to let our voices shine. And, our next, panelist, I'm super excited because how you might not meet someone face to face, but when you're a Black speaker and you have something to say and you're good, your name will circulate. So, remember hearing Dr. Will Moreland from Brian. And then I had a conversation with Keandra Jackson, who's also part of the Black Speakers Network. And they're singing these praises about this guy named Dr. Will Moreland. So one of the things that I tell you guys is a lot of times we want to get close. We want to get close to the Norma Hollises. We want to get close to the Dr. Helen Holtons, right? And before, that's what you needed to learn from them. But now there's this thing called Google and social media that you can get mentors in your mind, people that you can read their information, consume their content, and learn. And they might not even know that you exist. And I raise my hand to say that has been me in my experience with Dr. Will Moreland. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's a retired Black man from speaking. Who wants to retire? Then I would look at all his pictures and be like, yeah, I do. I want to be on a beach. I want to jet ski, all of that. I want to do that when I get older. But for some of you who are like, oh yeah, Quinn, where you been at? Dr. Will Moreland's been amazing. I want to introduce to some. And I want to remind a few others who might not be familiar with this awesome man with a great voice and a great message. He is Dr. Will Moreland. He is a military veteran turned entrepreneur. He is the founder of several successful companies, and he has traveled the world to impact, inspire, and influence leaders at all levels. So if you want to be a follower, you want to go with the crowd, you definitely don't want to pay attention to Dr. Will Moreland. But if you have something to say and you're willing to be a trailblazer, a leader in your industry, you definitely want to play close attention. He is a professional speaker, a business coach, and he has been named a top speaker in America and named Business Person of the Year by community organizations, not one, not two, but 5 times. He is a respected global leader. He is the author of, let me clear my throat for a second, 50 books. I can't spell 50 books. He has authored over 50 books. He also has worked with organizations, associations, governments in over not 10, not 20, but over 50 countries, over 5 continents. He is the founder of Genius Speaker Academy. He supports hundreds of speakers each year to build their brand, their business, and of course, their bank account. But most importantly, his passion to see individuals excel and succeed in life is part of his obedience and part of his assignment. So I'm super excited to announce the final person on our Powerhouse panel today, Dr. Will Moreland.
Wow, amazing, Quinn. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. Brian, thank you for the invite. And as this is Professional Speakers Day, I think the culture that has the biggest impact around the world should have the biggest voice. And so thank you, Quinn, and thank you, Brian, for creating these platforms. And I think the sky is the limit for what the Black voice is going to do. I think we have the opportunity to do what hip hop have done in the music industry. I believe that Black speakers have that same type of energy to do that around the world. So as we amplify our voices, I'm super excited to be here with everybody. It's like full circle. I remember 10 years ago, reaching out to Norma Hollis to interview her, and she so graciously came on the Dr. Will Speaks radio show, and Pam Perry and everybody else that's a part of today. I'm just super excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Will. Listen, one of the things I know for sure, you just touched on it about the hip hop culture. Like, we bring a little bit of swagger to every single thing that we touch. It is no question the undeniable influence that Black people have on pick an industry. And so I learned a lot about that. And so definitely appreciate that perspective. And yeah, let's jump into it. And so we're going to try our best to get to, we have some juicy topics to get into, and there's so much. But as we go forward, Quinn, I know you have some things that you want to jump off with. So I'll kick it to you for like the first couple of questions.
Yeah, so how we want to start it out is almost like a popcorn round. So I'm going to ask you guys a question, and if you feel like, oh my gosh, this is definitely up my alley, let me jump in, go ahead. That way I want to, get that little butterfly in your stomach, like, oh yeah, I definitely want to add my 2 cents or a nickel. That's how we want to do it. So I was recently listening to an interview. I shared this with Brian, how I keep my brain sharp is I bombard my brain with brilliance. So one of the things I do is I got YouTube, but I pay for it, right? And if you pay for it, you get no commercials. So when I'm up, I'm either, I have so many people in my room. Some of you on this stage I have listened to your YouTube as well. But I was listening to a interview with Les Brown, and they asked him, growing up when you grew up and you were one of the pioneers in the speaking industry, and, with your ability to move an audience, and you have a relationship with God, why did you not go into the arena of being a pastor or a preacher? And his insight was so interesting, which kind of frames our first question. He was like, if I would have became a preacher or a pastor, I would have only connected and got connected to 15% of the audience. My message is a global audience. So I chose not to be a preacher, but to be a speaker, because I knew that I could reach more people with my message. So I want to know, out of all of the professions, because everybody who talks, we all have transferable skills. You could have took your gift of speaking and gab and went into different professions. Why did you raise your hand to say either I want to be a speaker or I want to use my voice to develop the other people who want to use their voice in their industry? Because again, there's multiple ways that we can go with using our voice. Why being a professional speaker? Anyone who wants to jump in and answer that question, I will be delighted to hear your perspective.
Quinn, can I jump off, because I was a pastor. And I was a pastor for 8 years and transitioned into professional speaking. And one of the things that happened to me, I was raised in the church, and I was at a service one day, and the bishop, he prophesied, and he says, hey, young man, you're going to be a preacher. You're going to speak to millions of people one day. And I say that to say this, he was right, but being a preacher, I feel as though he was only able to speak to what he knew. Like, I don't think he knew that there was a speaking industry. So I do believe that he saw me speaking to millions of people, but he maybe had a vision of me with a microphone, and the only thing he knew of was in the pulpit. So fast forward years later, I have another mentor by the name of Miles Monroe, and I'm speaking to him, and he says, Will, you have a gift beyond the pulpit. You have a calling beyond the pulpit. And when he began to share that with me, similar to Les Brown, I realized that my message was bigger, or my audience was bigger than just the four walls of the church that I was preaching in. So I transferred or transitioned from pastoring to speaking.
No,
Oh,
great
I love
insight.
that. I love that. So I just had to jump in because I am an ordained minister and itinerant elder in the AME church. And if you know anything about that, every year somebody's going to come to you and say, "Oh, Reverend Holton, do you want a pastor?" And, you know, when that's the only avenue to get to what God is calling you to, you sometimes are conflicted. Which way do I go? Which way do I go? Do I pastor or do I stop doing what I've been doing? I was already an elected official when I heard my calling. Reluctantly, I fought it tooth and nail. But what happened was this. I realized, number one, I listened to the voice of God. And what I knew is that, like Dr. Will has said, like Les Brown has said, it wasn't my calling. And so it's real important to understand, what is your purpose to do? And what is the vehicle by which you're to make your impact and impression on this planet? And I can remember saying to my pastor many times, "Oh, no, thank you, Pastor. I already have a congregation. It's the city of Baltimore. I don't need to, Pastor. I'm already doing that." Because as a speaker, you speak life to people when you know that God has called you to do such a thing. And I was already doing that. The reason the speaking industry became important because I recognized that everybody has a contribution to make. And my message might have the same title as someone else's, but it's going to be a whole different context of what comes to that, to the ears of the hearer, because of the uniqueness that we all have within us. So I tell people, do I worry about what other people are speaking about, writing about? No, because no one can tell my story and the experiences of what I bring, because I know that I still live my life every day as a servant, serving others. Yes, thank
I
you.
love that. I love that. One of the things that's interesting for Black speakers, one of the first speakers that we probably heard every Sunday was our pastor. The person that we think is like the ultimate speaker may be Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, right? So a lot of speakers will have that bit of a calling of the message that they want to share. I know right now in my Branding Accelerator program, I have two pastors. One is transitioning from a pastor. One was a previous pastor. Now they want to go into the professional speaking industry. But I'm just glad that Les Brown saw that there were options. And so that's really it. I mean, we are going to use our voice for good, but we have options now. TD Jakes is a professional speaker as well as a pastor. We have options. And so a lot of speakers are thinking like, okay, well, I have this calling. I want to share. I really want to make a difference in the world, but I don't have to be in the four walls of a church. And I don't necessarily have to be an evangelist and traveling and getting people saved. I can be a different type of speaker. And it's because we have options. We see people that are writing books and people that are on different stages and people that are doing events. One of my mentors, Dr. Stacia Pierce, is a pastor. She's a co-pastor. A lot of people don't know that. They think she's a business coach, but she really is a pastor. She was my pastor for about 15 years.
Yeah, I did not know that.
People have options. You know, she talks about manifestation, but she really talks about the principles of God. Dr. Miles Monroe, one of my clients, you know, he could speak in the corporate world or he could speak in the pulpit. So we have options. So Quinn, that was really good. People do have to know where they're called and what tactics that they have to use their voice and how they can use it. And that's really, really good.
Awesome. Anybody else want to add anything?
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Norma.
in my case, I wanted to be a preacher. My grandfather was a Baptist preacher. And
I did not know that.
Yeah, and I'm from Detroit. We used to go to Buffalo every year, and I used to sit up there in the balcony and watch him run, and his robes falling him, and the women falling out. And what's going on? I didn't understand the feeling that was creating what was going on. But I had that. I just could not define it. But my elders convinced me that women don't become preachers. And what did I know? I'm a kid, you know. But my life has always been guided by the voice within me. And that's what I teach and coach other people to do, to really find that voice and follow it. I didn't know that I was going to be a speaker or on a speakers bureau. I was directing preschool programs. And then when I just felt that I had to finish that assignment, that lessons I was learning there before I could move beyond. And then when I decided to go into speaking, I started speaking for free and people liked it. But I had health issues from childhood stuff that I had, and I couldn't fly around the way that speakers do. So I talked to God, what should I do? He said, help other people. And then also, I always had, as many speakers do, that Dr. King spirit within. And I knew at that point that people that have that die, they get killed. And I figured if I work with speakers and I help them find their message, they can't kill all of us, and we can still get the message out. So that's been my driving force. And so that's what I always encourage speakers to follow, that inner voice. My whole training and coaching is really helping speakers and others to find that voice and trust it and live it, because that's the voice that's led me to do everything I've done. I don't do anything unless that voice directs me. And it may be counterintuitive in the eyes of society, but it works in terms of what I feel I'm here to do. So I encourage all of you, whatever it is you are here to do it, because the support's always there for it.
No, I'm so glad you said that, because that's something that I think as entrepreneurs we kind of learn over time, and that's one of the reasons why I get excited about this whole concept of like first generation anything, first generation college student, first generation speaker, entrepreneur. Like, you may not necessarily have grown up with someone like in your family or sitting around the table and talking about these things, but we don't really get taught to follow like our instinct and to match that to what's going on in the market environment. And it took a while for me to get there. I still am working on it. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, it's a lifelong journey. It never ends. My sister, we're the same, we're only a year apart. And all my life, she's never believed the things I told her from my spiritual perspective. But now I tell her, it's still here. It's been here from the beginning. And look how it's driven and what it's doing in helping society. So again, I encourage all of you. It's my feeling and belief from my research that as Black people, we have that instinct stronger than most populations do. And with that instinct, we have a responsibility to fulfill it, because if you believe you're here for a purpose, then fulfill it. And the purpose starts with that message that lives within. So the key really is getting clear on that message. And then, as Pam says, all the options that are out there to get it out there, because there's more options than ever. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. There's more options than ever. You guys are in this at a very good time, because all of us have paved the path. So it's a lot easier than it was in the 90s when I started, when people didn't know and you didn't have internet. So it's yeah.
Good.
My experience, I guess, is a little bit different. My, I guess, calling or desire to help speakers to pour into them, if you will, really came out of the work that I was doing with corporate clients. Before I ever started working with individual speakers and entrepreneurs who wanted to use speaking to build their business, I worked with my corporate clients to place their speakers, their subject matter experts on stages that they could use those opportunities to build their businesses even bigger. And these were already big businesses and they needed to build them even bigger. And it was probably, I guess, about 6 years ago when I realized that all of the strategies and techniques that I had used to successfully place corporate speakers on industry stages and giving them media opportunities, if I was able to teach that, to share that with an individual speaker, the strategy would work. The application it wasn't just exclusive to a corporate speaker. It would work for any speaker. And so that was the motivation that I used to co-author the book that I did, and to be able to start teaching other speakers. Like, if you will just take a look at what it is that you have to offer and package it a little bit differently, you will start to see an increase in the number of speaking opportunities that you can secure. And the more opportunities that you secure, the farther the message that you have to share can spread, the greater opportunity you have to offer your own services to people who you're not trying to convince them. They're actually looking for what it is that you can coach them on, that you can teach them to do, that you can, help better their own lives. If I can help you get on a stage, well, I wanted to be able to do that. And so I guess, like for all of us, it comes out of a place of wanting to serve people. My personal heart is I really hate to see people struggle with something when I know that I have an answer. If I have something that will help you stop struggling and move forward, well, that's like, I just really want to help people do that. Nothing hurts my heart more than to see people wrestling with something that is keeping them from having the things that they want, from achieving the success that they want to have. So, for me, it was really a matter of bringing what's working for corporate people and corporate marketers, corporate speakers, and making it possible for individual entrepreneurs to use those same strategies to land the stages that they want.
Well, that must have been one of the reasons why we connected like so quickly, because you probably was like, man, this boy is struggling. Let me get over here and help him out, because this ain't going to end well.
Gotta get off the struggle bus.
Well, I think one of the things,
what type of network?
I think what's really true is, and Brian, I think again, you and I met over a tweet. We met on a social media platform that really was probably divine that we did, because Twitter is so fleeting. The fact that you tweeted that you were looking for something, and that I was in the same space in the same moment where I could see it. But we live in a world. I think it was Norma that shared, like, we live in the world now where I think it was another speaker, a man named John Acuff, said the excuse of "I don't know" doesn't apply in the world today. We can't say that. We cannot say that we don't know. We can say that we haven't found out yet, but we can't say we don't know, because we can go to Mr. Google, and we can Google just about anything and find a thread that we can pull that will give us information. And, we can ask questions. The networks and the communities that Quinn and Brian have built, they're designed for us to be able to come in and ask questions, knowing that there are people inside there that want to be generous and want to give their support. So, I think that probably is a great connection point for us, Brian, is that we really do want to just see people get the help that they need so that they can succeed.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I think as I look across this room, that's so powerful, because you're right. Like, there's kind of no excuse for not knowing. But I think y'all remember, like, in the 90s when like the internet was first like getting big, everybody used to call it like, we're in the information age. So like the internet was the information superhighway. And Aurora, since you mentioned Google, now Google's dominance, Google's mission statement when it first started was to organize the world's information. Like, that was their sole mission statement. And guess what? They did it. A couple days ago, I just realized Google has a feature now where you can not even sing, like you can hum the lyrics to a specific song, and with a scary degree of accuracy, it will tell you what song you are humming. So it is organized information. But the problem is, and the reason why, anytime I'm listening to Dr. Will and Pam, like, you all recognize information is more accessible, and so by extension is no longer as valuable as it was 20 years ago. What I believe is more valuable now is exactly what we're talking about and what we get from each of you, and that's perspective. Like, people being able to take information and make it make sense in their world. And that's where communities like Speak Black Woman, BSN, that's where, hearing stories in Speakers Magazine, like, that's where individual coaching that you do, Dr. Will and Norma, like, things like that is really what creates value. Because if it was just information, like, everybody knows how to lose weight, like, you move more, eat less, like, that's information. Like, you Google it, calorie deficit, like, but how many people are doing it? Because you need, to contextualize that to your own life. So I really, really appreciate that. Not sure where we are with the questions, but
no, I'm here. I got you. You guys all said some really good, interesting, perspective, and we talked about we're in 2021 now. I want to talk about all of you, and whoever wants to kind of jump in. Some of you have 10 years, 20 years, 30 years of speaking experience, and there's a lot of people probably that some of us that are widely known, some of us that don't know, who entered the industry and left. They couldn't make it. They couldn't keep up with the times. Social media was too much. you know, or Facebook, now it's Twitter, now it's Clubhouse. It's too much. When we started, we had a stage, and all we had was a stage, and we would give great information. How do you think that you stayed relevant in this evolution of a speaking career? Because at first, you know, there's so much that's happened. It's been, you just going on a stage, and now it's, there's so many ways you can pay to play to speak. There's virtual speaking, there's hybrid speaking, and all of you been doing this, for a while. So how have you remained relevant in your career, especially as a Black speaker who has decades of experience? I would love to know who would love to jump in on that.
Well, I'm the senior person, so I'll go first. So, because I've been in the industry, I came to the industry in 1996, and that's when I was directing the Head Start programs and left that to go on my own without any training at all. And just following, and my advice basically is just follow your inner voice. Just follow your path. If you believe that you have a message that came to you and that's why you're on the planet, because I've learned that, and when I have my bureau, 99% of the speakers that came to me had the same message, and that's to make a difference in the world. But it's the way they did it that made the difference, because everybody's background and experience and perspective is different. So everyone's background and perspective will apply and will resonate with different people in different ways. And so your job is to find, where does your message resonate? Who is your market that really says, yeah, that's what I believe? Because we're all really doing the same thing and saying the same thing in a different way. So how are you being guided to do that? So I've stayed relevant by transitioning as needed. When the recession hit, and when my number one person running my bureau had a sugar count of 500 and had to stop working, and then her assistant's father got sick 30 days later, and she had to move back to Detroit, I owned it, but I didn't run it. And so that was the universe's message: it's time to move on. So as I was following the universe, I was also writing of other things as my research on authenticity and what it meant to be self-awareness, because I had to figure out who I am. No one told me. And I didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't know who I was. I wanted to be in alignment with who I actually was. And that took 30 years of research. But I worked on that as spirit led me. And as I finished the writing, I didn't even know what I had created. Here it is. What do I do with it? And then I was led to the people, and that's when I started traveling, when I started doing the events, when I met Quinn and others. And at that point, internet had just started, and another speaker had encouraged me, do it. I don't want to do that stuff, but I'm glad I did, because that's what got me known across the United States. I didn't know internet was going to grow like it did. So in a very short period of time, I had a large following, and I asked people to invite me to their city to support me, to represent me, and bring a crowd so I could share what I just had finished writing, what God had channeled through me. And I know many of you are receiving stuff that you're getting and just channeling through you, and you're writing, you're being obedient with it. And you may not understand where it fits in your career. My signature poem, I wrote when I was 28, which was years ago. So you never know your journey. If you follow your voice, you're on a journey that has threads and a theme to it that's leading you somewhere. There's some research I want to share that the most productive decade of human life is from 60 to 70. The second most productive decade is 50 to 60. And the third most productive is 70 to 80. So when you're anything before 50 is just practice. And that's research from the New England Journal of Medicine. So you can look it up. But if you're under 50, you're still just practicing. And so you're going to make mistakes. It's not like when you get 30, you think, oh, I'm grown. I'm supposed to be making $1 million now. I'm supposed to be so successful. It doesn't work that way. It's a long journey, but there are threads in it. And if you're not so focused on earning the money and getting rich and being wealthy and being well known and being the best and all of that, but focused on what it is you're supposed to learn, then when it's time for all that to really roll out, you have the wisdom, you have the experience, you have the background, you have the resources, you have the people that you have what you need to move it. So I've survived, and because I've allowed, people say God is with me. I've survived because I've been with God. That's made the difference.
I love that. And before we get to the next person, we want to know how you remain relevant. We have the comments are on fire. Precious Williams says, bring it. Being called to serve speaks volumes, says Jewel. We also have True, I tried it. Perspective is very important. Follow your inner voice. Jewel also said, I don't know. That's a word that will resonate with me. We can't say that. This is great information. I mean, people literally are in the comments having a field day. So you guys are dropping knowledge. And Brian, Miss Hollis just confirmed that we are in our infancy stages of speaking. Okay,
Well,
is she
well,
50? Is the deck?
yeah.
We got Similac on our breath in our speaking industry, Brian. We're like really just getting started. So that makes me feel good, right? No pressure. That makes me feel good that we still got some time to grow and expand.
Did anybody see that movie Benjamin Button? I mean, I'm getting that kind of vibe right now.
Aging backwards. One of the things that I find that as a publicist to stay relevant, obviously when I started, the internet was not a thing. So in order to send out press releases, we were doing faxes. And my first internet experience was MySpace. So one of the things about me is I'm an early adopter. I love having older mentors, people that are at least 10 to 15 years older than me, but I also have younger mentors, people that are 10 to 15 to 20 years younger than me. And I learn from them. I'm not so where I can't learn from anyone younger. And so I have been an early adopter, whether it's Clubhouse or whether it is new to Twitter, LinkedIn, I mean, I'm going to do that. And so I find that the difference between me and maybe other people in my industry that are baby boomers, is that they didn't embrace it. They were like, that's blogging. Who's going to be blogging? Podcasting. That's just a fad, but I never did that. I just saw it as another communication tool that I can use. The strategies, like Aurora said, are the same. The tactics change and you have to change with it. I've never been afraid. I will get on TikTok. I will figure it out. I will do an Instagram reel. I'm going to figure it out. And it's something of those things where it's like at 61, 62, I have a client that's 70 something years old and has over 150 podcasts. Okay. And she didn't say like, what's a podcast? And then just go away and not try to figure it out. I mean, so you have to stay young in your mind, but part of it is having younger people in your life, people like Brian, people like Quinn, that kind of keep you sharp. It's like, okay, what they doing over there on IG, and what app was that? That kind of thing. So I really do. And having a coach, having someone that coach you through to keep you relevant and say, hey, that's getting old, that's getting stale. You need to step it up. You need to do more anthologies, or you need to do less blogging and more podcasting, whatever it is, you do need a coach. So that's how you stay relevant. You've got to be in community. You really do.
Pam, I love that.
Oh, I'm coming right to you, Dr. Helen. I wanted to say something real quick, and I'm going to pass the mic to Dr. Helen. You are so correct. And it's interesting because Brian and I, we do what we do in our communities, but to each other, we're like, oh my gosh, I just talked to so-and-so. And I'm glad that you show both ends of the spectrum, because all of you who we asked to come here, we have all learned from you in some capacity. We've all been the person that's take on, they are more of the mentor role. We are the mentee. We're here to learn. What do you need me to do? Do you need me to get your shoes from flats to heels, or what do you need me to do? Right. But you said something so profound that we don't even think about it. We're just operating in our genius. We're doing what we're doing. And I remember, I met Willie Johnny a couple of times. Now he calls me the queen of Clubhouse. He's like, Quinn, you're the queen of Clubhouse. And I'm just like, wow. He's like, I need you to come and tell me how to work this Clubhouse. I'm like, you want me to teach you? Like, we are like flabbergasted. So Brian gets it. I know that I get it. And I remember even Delator McNeil, another person, he actually had me sit down with his team of 8 and teach him Clubhouse strategies. So it is a two-way street. And we appreciate that not only do you allow us to learn from you, but us not even knowing you're learning from us. So I'm glad that there's been a two-way street, in this industry. So Dr. Helen, I just wanted to say that before I go ahead and pass the mic over to you. Did you have something you want to add on to what Pam said, or how are you staying relevant right now with all of your years of experience speaking as well?
So I will tell you, my lane these days are as a strengths and culture leadership coach and trainer. And so a lot of my work is behind the scenes, not necessarily for the world to see. But I love, Pam, what you said about mentors older and mentors younger. I've hired interns for years because I can't keep up. And I have them on point. First of all, no, get that social media stuff out. But secondly, teach me how you do it, timing, all those things. I'm a very hands-on visual kind of person, so don't give me a manual and expect me to read it. But the other part is this: I stay relevant because I'm a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
And every day it's like, I got to learn something new, learn more about something I don't know about. And it doesn't mean you don't get frustrated. It just means in that frustration is like a calling that says, okay, I'm going to figure this out. If I can't do it by myself, let me call on someone who I know that can help me.
Yeah.
There's no need for us to labor alone in this vineyard to get things done, that we are all connected in some form or fashion. And so whether it is with younger people, older people, people who have a niche in an area that you admire, don't be afraid to give them their props and then say, okay, can you help me with this? Nor should we shy away from paying someone what they're worth. And I think that's one of the things that we struggle with as Black speakers, not believing our true worth and the willingness to ask for it. So Aurora, the work you do, I was on BSN and saw that. I said, oh, I got to go get that. You know, because it's like, number one, let me support people who are putting out great content, who look like me, because we're real quick to go get everybody else's stuff. And then not to look at how do we support one another. If we don't support one another, how do we expect our community to grow and prosper and be all that it can be? So I just love it. I wanted to share that.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, one of the things is always reminding yourself that it is going to change, right? We're not using 8-tracks anymore. We're not using cassette tapes anymore. We're not, but when it was here, it was the most amazing thing. How many of you remember being able to leave your house with your Walkman? And you thought, it can't get any better than this. Like, it can't get any better than this.
I used to run with my Walkman.
Right? And then the disc player came, right? And so now the disc player comes, and now you're stuck. What do I do with all my tapes? I made all these tapes off the radio, my favorite top 10. What do I do with all these tapes? Do I move on, or do I stay with my Walkman? Then I moved to my disc player. Then the MP3 player came. I was like, I don't even think I know 3,000 songs. Why would I want something that has 3,000 songs, right? So I'm now, what do I do with all of my CDs? I have a whole wall of CDs. I've convinced myself that I spent all my money investing in CDs. Do I just throw that away? So you got to always remember, Pam and Norma, they remember Blog Talk Radio, right? Blog Talk Radio was Clubhouse 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Clubhouse 10 years ago.
How about that?
Right?
Yeah.
If you look at Meerkat, right? Meerkat was here. Periscope was here. It's not here anymore. You ride it until the wheels fall off. And when the wheels fall off, you get off and find something else. And so that's how you stay relevant. And what I love about being a speaker, guys, this is something we can do, and we get better as we go. This is not football. This is not basketball. This is not baseball. You don't age out. I'm going to be doing this at 90 years old. I don't know what platform I'm going to be on. I don't know what system I'm going to be using, but I know I'm going to be using my voice to reach the world no matter what they're doing. Facebook is 17 years old. How many of you remember when we were like, I don't want everybody in my business. I'm not getting on Facebook. You're not going to be all in my business, right? We didn't even know you could use Facebook as a business, right? And so you got to always be evolving. Everybody said it. You got to always constantly be growing, have mentors above you, have mentors beneath you, but always know that it's going to change. It's going to change. You can't get upset. You can't be like, they're always switching stuff on me, algorithms and all. It's going to change. And you just got to be willing to change with it so you can stay relevant.
You know, I think one of the things that has really helped me to stay relevant, and I'd like to believe that this would apply to anybody, is community and humility. You need community because you need to know that you're not alone. There's an old proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go with others. And community helps you do that. Community helps you learn and find things that you don't already know or that you're not aware of. It gives you an instant sounding board. Some of our communities are a little bit more closed. They're more personal. Some of us are involved in communities that are very large in Facebook groups, BSN and Speak Black Woman and others. But you need to be a part of a community where the things that you are desiring, the goals that you have, are the norm. That's a quote from the book Atomic Habits. James Clear says that. Be parts of communities where the goals that you have are the norm. If being on a stage every week is the norm, then be parts of communities where that is normal. Sometimes you feel like such an outsider because you're parts of communities where what it is that you want to do isn't normal. So people look at you and like, you want to do what? Like, you're trying to do what? And it starts to make you feel self-conscious and you withdraw a little bit. And so we don't want to do that. We want to be parts. We want to have a little space where the people that are there are very affirming of what it is that we want to do. And so I've had to do that. I have some wonderful relationships in my life, professional friends, personal friends, but then I have this group of people that are friends, some of whom I've never met in person or maybe met just once, that what I'm trying to do and build in my business is normal to them. So when I talk about it, it doesn't seem outrageous. It doesn't seem crazy. The other thing is humility. You've got to be willing to humble yourself to learn. Some of the things that we all have to learn will humble you. Technology will humble you. New social media platforms will humble you. Having to reframe the way that you write about yourself or talk or pitch yourself as a speaker, it will humble you because it's awkward and it feels a little uncomfortable. Be willing to go to that humility, that place of humility, and ask for help. Be willing to operate in something that feels a little awkward and uncomfortable until it doesn't. Doing those things keeps you relevant. Being parts of communities will keep you relevant. Being humble and being willing to learn will keep you relevant. Having that, what I like to call just a natural curiosity. I was always that as a kid. I was one of those kids that could spend a good amount of time just reading the dictionary because I was just curious. How does that work? How does Clubhouse work? How does that work? Be willing to be those things, to develop and cultivate those traits in yourself so that you can always remain in the know, on the trend, knowing what's coming. Some trends aren't going to be for you. They may not apply. They may not work for your business or the audience that you're trying to serve, but be aware of them.
That's good stuff. It's so much wisdom and knowledge. And I got one more question before I kind of kick it over to Brian. But before I do that, let me tell y'all something. This is like a full-fledged masterclass. These comments are going crazy. Rokita says, yes to technology. It will humble you. Angela says, humble yourself to learn. Yolanda says, be a part of a community that affirms your goals. Yes, absolutely. Reggie Gant says, some trends may not be for you. And these are all great things that we need to know and we need to understand. And, one of the things that I feel like when you start in this industry, because I'm just so grateful for groups like Black Speakers Network, the National Speaker Association, Toastmasters, some of these groups that when you say you want to speak, people don't look at you crazy. We're all crazy together. And this vote is, was there ever a time that you lost your voice in this process? You know what? I don't want to speak. No microphone, no megaphone. I don't want to do this. And then how did you do to recover? Was it something or someone who pulled you back? Because I feel like people are seeing Dr. Helen Holton now. They're seeing Dr. Will now. They're seeing Norma. They're seeing myself. They're seeing Brian. They don't know what we had to go through to get here. They see our breakthrough, but they don't see our been through. And I'll just be transparent because Brian was there. Brian and I, he always says we go back like car seats, but there was a pivotal moment in 2014 where I was like, I don't want to speak anymore. Brian was there. I had about 170 people who I was frustrated because nobody was trying to hire me. I did not understand the business side of speaking. I didn't know Aurora. I didn't have Get Picked. I had Get Not Picked. That's the book that I was using, right? So I just could not figure out how to do this. So I ran across Lisa Nichols and Lisa Sesovich, and I learned about selling from the stage, where you could host your own event, offer your product or service after you spoke. So I rented out this space called Signature Blue Events. There were 170 people that RSVP'd. Anywhere from about 80 to 100 people actually showed up. Brian, my friend, came to support me. And I did this fabulous presentation on how you can sell more products at events as a speaker. And at the end of this presentation, because I'm a student of professional development, if you're in the comments and you have a lot of books and you went to a lot of seminars, you also are a student of professional development. I made an offer to work with me. And I expected half of the room to get up, knock each other out the way, go to the back of the room and sign up for my course. The opposite happened. No one signed up. No one raised their hand. And I'm like frustrated because everybody want to take pictures and you did such a great job. I'm like, well, if I did such a great job, why didn't you buy? And
That
literally at that moment, I was like, I quit. God made a mistake. I don't want to speak. I started focusing on my purses for 3 years. I was like, I don't want to speak anymore. And literally I had a good friend of mine named Tiffany Bethia who says, Quinn, when's your next speaking engagement? When are you speaking again? When are you going to do another workshop? And I said, Tiffany, I quit. I'm not speaking anymore. And she looks at me and she says, Quinn, you're not good at speaking. You're anointed to speak. She broke my silence. So the question that I have for you, was there a time in your speaking career, this is Brian or Aurora or whoever on the panel, that you stopped speaking and something or someone pulled you back to be able to use your voice again? I would love to hear your story on this.
Well, I'll jump in. I as a communications consultant and presentation skills trainer, I always called myself kind of almost like the corporate Cinderella. I helped other people get ready for the stage. I was never the one who was, consistently on the stage. I knew how to be on stage. I knew how to help people prepare to be on stage. But I wasn't the one who got on stage. And I always tell this story because it makes me laugh. But when I made the decision along with my colleague to write the book, Get Picked, a public speaking book, it never occurred to me that I would be doing all of a sudden a lot of public speaking. And that sounds so ridiculous, but it's the absolute truth. It never occurred to me that I would then be asked to speak. And so, for me, what pulled me forward was the goal that I had, as we've all talked about, what you feel you're called to do. I definitely feel called to help people and to help them get those stages and land on the places that they want to land. And with that comes other things that I didn't expect. And I think that's something that, as I think about what my goal was to help people. Well, that was what propelled me to speak. I didn't have that as part of my long-term plan. Is like, I'm using this book to land stages. I had other goals for the book, which I've achieved, but it's also opened up all kinds of other doors. And so I think, Quinn, when you told your story, what your friend did was reminded you of what it was you were called to do. And also in that kind of reminded you of the why. So now, when I get opportunities to speak or when I go and pursue opportunities to speak for myself, I'm remembering the why. Why do I want to do this? Because there are people out there that need what I have to offer. They need to know what I can teach them. And so for me, it was the experience of writing a book that said, nope, now you've got this message. It's formulated, it's crystallized. Now it became like this little hard shove in the back. Okay, now get on stage. And so, I think for all of us, it becomes your why. Whenever we feel like we want to withdraw because it's hard, hard is not a good reason to withdraw. It's all hard. Being on stages, getting picked and building a business. Dr. Will is someone that, I have such admiration and respect for, because he is just someone who has built his business, had great focus in building his business, but it's hard work. Like, you have to do the work. Being on stage is hard. Not being on stage is hard. Like, it's all hard. Choose your hard. You've got to be able to continue to pursue those things that will move your why forward.
The word I use is weary. It's been weary a lot of times because you're doing what you think you're supposed to do and it's not working and the money's not coming, but you're still committed. And I remember one time telling my friend, I'm on strike. She said, what does that mean? I don't know. I'm just stating my frustration that I have all this great work and this great stuff for people, and I don't really know how to get it out. One of the, for me as a pioneer, there was not a lot of stuff in place when I, as I traveled this journey. So I've learned a lot, and there certainly weren't Black people who have done it who will unveil the secrets, because no matter how much you learn, no matter how many gurus you talk to and people you go to, there seems to always be a piece that's missing, no matter what you're doing. So, and you don't always know what that piece is. And sometimes coaches can't tell you what it is because they don't know either. But all you have to do is trust that you're on the path and keep putting one foot in front of the other. Go on strike if you need to, but don't stay on there long. So I've never really stopped speaking, and I don't see myself as speaking as my primary career. It's one of the things that I do. I have more of a business and a passion and a purpose that is fulfilled in multiple ways, of which speaking is one. And I think most speakers are in that same position, because our message really is best on the business side. It's best sold when you have multiple ways of doing it. You're speaking, you're coaching, you've got products, you've got teleseminars, you've got whatever it is that you do. You need that collaboration of things, but you may start with one. And learning it is a process. And I certainly, when you get the weariness and when you get to want to go on strike and all, go to your groups, go to Black Women Speak, go to Black speakers, go to people that you know, go to coaches, go to community, as Aurora says, because community will pull you out of it. I call it your network of quality relationships, quality friends who know you well enough to say to push that button that turns you back on. Keep them in your life and go to them when you need them.
Well, I think on my end, it's kind of like, to answer your question directly, Quinn, it's every time that I speak, I'm like ready to quit because I think, again, just coming from a place of like the introvert side, it's like, it takes, I've been in rooms and I've seen so many of y'all on stage. Dr. Will, we sat in LA and he talked about the Betty Crocker and, doing the recipe. Like, I seen Quinn come to life and like full day workshops. And I my background, even before, BSN, I was doing corporate training and development. So I was doing week-long trainings in front of the classroom, and training and like keynoting is one thing, and then training is a completely other thing. But it doesn't matter if I'm speaking for on a 15-minute podcast or if I'm doing a one-day training. Like, it takes all of my energy. Like, after this, like, I'm not talking to any. I got one other meeting, I think, but like, I'm going to be absolutely done. So it's one of those things where I don't really get energized by speaking necessarily. I get energized from the results of, somebody sending me a note saying, hey, this is what this meant to me, or I was able to do this, or somebody, even within what we create in BSN, really, creating systems and building capacity and creating opportunity, I think is really where my lane has, shifted to a lot of what I think you were saying, Norma, as well. It's like, hey, you don't have to be necessarily the person, speaking all the time to have that level of impact, but you could still impact, you could still have a great impact. So that's my thing. Like, after every speaking opportunity, I'm just like, man, I don't know if I'm doing this. Like, it's gotta be, can we record this and just put it out? But it is fulfilling from a perspective. And I always am trying to be transparent around that, because I know there are a lot of people out there who, they're not trying to be the next Les Brown. Nobody should be trying to be the next anybody, first of all. Right. But in general, you may not have that personality that you may have traditionally associated with someone who's like this high energy speaker, but you can still be a very effective information expert and just show up in a different capacity.
No, that's good. Anybody else want to add anything about, was there a time that you were silent and then you got your voice back? Was it a situation or a person that says, wait a minute, you do know you're supposed to be speaking, because this industry is not easy. You know, I just came back from an event. Dr. Helen knows this, and I'm grateful for Speak Black Women. I'm grateful for Black Speakers Network, but we still are very much the minority in this industry, right?
Yeah.
There is not a lot of people who looks like us, whether it is culturally, racially, or even in my particular situation, woman speaker, Black speaker, and then age-wise. So again, was there any time where like, oh my gosh, there are 50 people here and they're all white men or all white women, and I'm the only, right? I don't know if I want to do this. I mean, if you don't, that's okay. But I just wanted to pose that question, because there's a lot of people watching right now and they are like, oh my gosh, I want to be like the next, not understanding that we had to pay for this, whether it was our sanity, our blood, our sweat, our tears, there was a price to pay to get to where we are now. So I wanted to kind of wrap that up if anybody wants to add.
For me, Quinn, it was, I guess, initially when I transitioned into professional speaking, we all start with the passion. We all start that, God gave me this calling. I'm anointed. I know I got something to say. I want to impact the world. Here I am. And so I remember early on, I went to a speakers convention. This was early on. I didn't know anything about the business itself. So I entered into this speaking convention or the speaker training, and it was like 1,500 other speakers. And I was like, oh man, I didn't know it was this many, 1,500. Well, where's my voice gonna fit? And then it seemed like everybody I talked to talked about the same subject as me. Oh, what do you talk about? Leadership development? What do you talk about? Personal development? I was like, man, where am I going to fit? And then I remember comparing myself. I got frustrated because I would go and I would listen to other people, and to be transparent, I was like, I know I'm better than this dude. Like, come on, this dude is fumbling over his words. Why is he on stage and I'm not on stage? And then I had to stop and I had to figure it out. And I said, okay, what is Les Brown doing? What is Lisa Nichols doing? What is Tony Robbins doing? What is Zig Ziglar doing? Jim Rohn? What are they all doing? I had to figure out that this was a business. But then I realized that success in anything is 90% mental.
Yes.
There was a scripture that I held on to, and the scripture was, you will reap if you faint not. My success was not in how hard I worked. My success was not how I communicated. My success was really in me not giving up. Like, my success was being consistent, showing up every day. And when I began to realize that, what happened was, with me showing up every day, I began to build relationships. And let me just give everybody a quick secret in this whole speaking industry. That's going to be your success, the relationships that you build. I'm a part of this panel, not because I'm some dynamic speaker or because I'm crushing numbers. It's because I have a relationship with Brian, because Brian knows me, right? That's why I'm on this panel. Didn't matter how good I am, how fantastic I am. If Brian didn't know of me, if he didn't have a relationship with me, he wouldn't have the confidence to bring me onto his platform, share me with, 20,000 members of Black Speakers Network. And so for me, finding your voice is really about just you being consistent, right? You'll find out, like Norma said earlier, we really are saying all the same stuff, right? What goes up must come down. Winter, spring, summer, fall. Winter, spring, summer, fall. The principles are the principles. Those are not going to change. But I think Dr. Helen said, but your uniqueness is your uniqueness. You're not going to tell the same story like I tell the same story. Mm-hmm. It's the same information, but it's not the same story. And so that's really what has anchored me in this speaking industry, understanding that, yes, I have something to say, because it's my unique perspective, and just being consistent and knowing that I'm going to reap. I'm going to reap if I don't faint, if I don't give up. You're going to reap. So for all of you that are listening to us, just keep going. That's the key. It's just to keep going. And someone said it earlier, you just figure it out. Like I always tell all of our speakers of our academy, you're like a practitioner. You're like a doctor, right? They ask the doctor, they say, where is your practice? Because he's practicing. She's practicing. Hey, do this for 7 days. We're going to see how your body adjusts to it. If it works, I'll give you more. If it doesn't, we'll change the prescription. That's what success in entrepreneurship is. You're going to try some stuff. We're going to see if the market responds. Oh, the market didn't respond. They don't want to hear that from me. I remember, let me just share this real quick. I wrote a book about marriage 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I wrote a book about marriage. The problem, Quinn, was I was only married for 5 years. Market didn't want to hear about somebody who wasn't married for 20 plus years, right? So what did I have to do? I had to put that book on the shelf. It was anointed. It was powerful. It has the same principles that I still use 25 years later now. But now the market accepts it because I've been married for 25 years. It's the same information, but they didn't accept it at 5 years. They're like, what this dude talking about? He don't know nothing about. Wait till you get some teenagers. Wait till you get to the 7-year itch. Wait till you get to the 15-year debacle. All that stuff, right? But now the same principles, the same message. We just slapped a new cover on it and repurposed it and put it back out there.
Couple things I want to say, and brief. Repetition is the motherhood of all learning. The more we do something, the better we become at it, the more comfortable we become with it, and the more transparency that comes through when you do that speaking. Secondly, what is the difference between a hunk of coal and a brilliant diamond? That hunk of coal was a rock that stuck to its job. And so if you have received it, believe it, nurture it, don't be so quick to get an end result, because if God gave it to you, God's going to support you in excelling and bringing excellence with it.
And just a note, the conversation about relationships, I think it's absolutely true. We need relationships to help, move ourselves along. All of us on this panel today are here, as Dr. Will said, because we have a relationship with Brian and or with Quinn. And so your relationships will help to pave the way for you. But remember that relationships are two-way streets. You need to come to relationship with a heart of generosity. You need to be willing to give as much as you're looking to receive. And it may not be that you're giving the same thing that you're looking to get, but you have something to offer anyone that you enter into a relationship with. I think so often in our fear of not being able to move our business forward, of not being able to get to where we want to go, we look for what will help us get there faster, and the people that can help us do that, without looking, what can I return to them? What can I give them? What can I give that will help them move forward? Generosity has its own rewards. And I just think that in relationships, especially in the world today, because the world today can be such a cynical place, such a hard place, such a, we're all, in some way or another trying to protect. And generosity isn't a defensive stance, it's an open stance. And so as you're looking to build relationships with people, look for those places where you can also return in a generous way to those people that you're building connection with.
Love it. This is good stuff. I I mean, I'm taking like actual notes on like paper. That's how like it's not like I'm not even using one. I'm like, nope, I need that like connection. Quinn, I couldn't imagine, I knew that this was going to be powerful when we first kind of imagined this experience, just looking at the comments and going through and just really getting a sense of how this is landing. I think this is a conversation that was probably well overdue. And of course, anytime you build a community, there's this this desire. I think we're all kind of ready for like live events to come back in its full like capacity. Not sure when that's going to truly happen, but being able, I know for me, you can sit in a room as an entrepreneur, speaker, author, coach, or otherwise, and just kind of feel like, man, am I the only one that feels like this? Like, am I like, is this really this hard? Is this really? And then you come here and you're like, nope. Dr. Will said exactly what I was thinking last week. Norma said what I was thinking this morning. Pam hit the nail on the head. Dr. Hope, so like I think that this is really landing really well. So I just want to thank you. And a lot of people are making comments to the authenticity and just the transparency, which again is another thing that I think particularly when you layer in the fact that, this is Speak Black Woman, Black Speakers Network, Black people, looking to go to the next level. We don't always operate with that level of transparency. Like, coming from how I know in my house, it was like, we don't necessarily, you could live with a person their whole life, never know how much money they made, never knew if the house is paid off, never know, like, whatever. So it's kind of like, I think it takes an extra degree for some of us to kind of talk about some of the things that we're getting into with a level of transparency, and hopefully that this serves as a catalyst to continue those conversations, throughout the course of the rest of the year, because I think that's really where the true change and growth happens.
I agree 100%. And, as we're thinking about, just this professional speaking industry and how much it's changed and how much it's evolved, I would love to kind of finish out. I don't know if you have anything, Brian, but we still got some time and the chat is on fire, to really just talk about what are the opportunities right now, because, Dr. Will mentioned this, and I noticed this as well, and Brian has been a day one of mine as far as my journey and the evolution of my voice. Because I think when you enter this industry, you're like, I want to be a keynote speaker, because all the keynote speakers is just you feel like they get paid. And I have made the transition to focus more on my role as an event host and as an MC. Right. And to be honest with you, I don't know too many people who want the MC microphone. They want the keynote speaker microphone. They want the virtual stage. They want the training stage. But MCing is not something that everybody wants. And, how would you talk about, and I would love to hear from everyone, or who wants to kind of add in, what are the opportunities right now in 2021? Like right now, I don't know about you, but to be Black, to be woman, you in style. People, diversity, equity, that's on our thing. And at the end of the day, it wasn't always that way. It was, we got one Black person that checked every box. But now I feel like there are so many opportunities to share your message, whether it's using social media as a stage, whether it's using a virtual platform. What do you think right now, being a speaker in 2021 is a huge advantage, or a huge kind of, way that we had that maybe didn't exist 30 years ago, didn't exist 10 years ago?
I'd like to answer that. Gwen, just from the standpoint of the speakers that I think have the most cachet that I work with in terms of promoting them, and the ones that get booked and the ones that get media, the ones that people call a lot, that I represent, the larger, bigger brands, what they all have in common. And I talk about it a lot, but it is their platform. It's their platform. It is also, a lot of them have books. They have multiple books. A lot of them have a really good online presence. A lot of them have an entrepreneurial mindset. They have other products. They are coaches. They are training. When I look at where the speakers are that are really making money, the ones that are my clients, that are my private clients that I work for, they have those things. And they're not trying to just like be on the stage, but they have an entire business. So they have a platform. They may be doing podcasts. They have a website that works and that's not whack. They have an email list. They have a community. They have a lot of media behind them already. They have articles written on them. Like I said, they have multiple books. So those are the things that they have in order to build their cachet, to build their brand. Everyone, when they first call me and say, hey, can you get me on, I don't know, whatever channel, CNN? But it's like there's these steps of things that you need before you get there. There's a sequential way of things that have to go. People want to shortcut everything. Yes, if I could take everyone that comes to me and say, hey, yeah, let's get you on CNN tomorrow. You're going to be great working on MSNBC with, whatever. And it's like, but there's these steps in between, and people have to realize, have you checked the box of all the things that you need? Yes, you have the message. Yes, you have the passion, but do you have the community? Do you have the connections? Have you had the coaching? Have you figured out some of the things that you need to figure out in terms of online presence? Do you have a YouTube channel that's not whack? Have you cleaned up a lot of the stuff that you need to clean up? Do you have a one sheet? Do you have a sizzle reel? A lot of people say, well, my big thing is I want to be on TED Talk. I want to be on TED Talk. Well, to be on TED Talk, look at the people who've been on TED Talk. Do they have certain things? Do you have them? So those are the things that I just really want to say, that yes, there's some things that in order to be successful in this business, look at what the big dogs have, and then try to work that way, because someone like Norma didn't start, in 1990 and then just immediately start getting all these gigs. It took a period of time for it to build. She has a signature program. She has signature colors. She has a brand. A brand takes time. Starbucks has a brand. It takes time. So I just want to tell everyone, be patient with it and be consistent with it. I think Dr. Helen talked about being consistent. Consistent is clarity, and consistency is key, and it'll equal the cash in this career. I feel like Clubhouse. I'm Pam. I'm done speaking.
Yeah.
This is not Clubhouse.
I think you hit the nail on the head. We spend so much time talking about that, and I think part of the issue is that we are kind of in this like microwave, not even a microwave. I'll just say social media, because like it's almost kind of wired for immediate gratification in some ways, and then the folks who are the outliers of that are the people that get the most shine. So if somebody puts out like a viral video and gets like 1 million views, and now all of a sudden they do happen to be on TV, we think that that's the model, where that's like 0.0001%. And then you have all these other people who are doing it the way that you just outlined, and that is the vast majority of the reality. But Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club, he has this thing where he always says, like, nobody cares about the truth when the lie is more entertaining. And so, like, on social media, we're like, hey, this is the life, you know what I'm saying? And then you go over here and it's like, oh, well, I gotta put in 5
work.
Like, why? Like, it's right here. Like, what do you mean? I just need just make me like that. I'm like, and Pam, and I know Dr.
It's like, take the magic wand, wave it over my head, and put me on,
But I think part of it is just to be like real with it. It's like the reality is, and particularly since we're with Black speakers, it's like, again, first generation entrepreneurs. Like the reality of some of the situations is, we can't necessarily wait 5 years to start making money, and I don't think we need to. Like I don't think that's when people hear that message, like, hey, this is. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. They're thinking, well, I can't make any money right now. I gotta, just spend. That's not what we're saying. You're just saying that there's a methodology and an order in order to build something that's long-term and sustainable. So I think that's fair.
Just wanted to offer I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Will.
No, go, please, go ahead.
Well, I'll share quickly, because you always have such richness, and I've got my pen. I'm writing things down too. So, as I've mentioned, I do a lot of work with corporations and helping them place their speakers. I'm working right now with one of my clients on a conference that they, fingers crossed, will be participating in live in the fall, in October. And it is incredible to me how in the 6-7 months that we've been working on curating our speakers to offer to this conference, how often the conference reminds us consistently, remember, as you're selecting your speakers, remember our diversity goals and the things that matter to us as you're selecting speakers to share with us. This is a season, I think, probably couldn't have been imagined, just a few years ago, that not only was diversity and inclusion in speaker platforms and in speaking opportunities, was a nice box to check, but it's a priority for many events, for many shows that are trying to bring speakers in. For those of you who work in corporate jobs and have there's a speaking component to the marketing effort that happens there, now's a great time to make yourself available as a speaker in your organization, because they're looking for not just our faces, because we bring color to an agenda, but they're looking for our voices, they're looking for our expertise, they're looking for our perspective. And so, if you have shied away from pitching, if you've been discouraged about pitching yourself, I just want to encourage you that your voice, your perspective, your uniqueness is actively being sought. And you need to continue to prime that wheel, to work at it. It is it's really quite a time. And I look at my corporate clients, and they're recognizing that, you know, they have not had the diverse set of speakers. It's all kind of trickles down. As they look for speakers, they're also having to look at the hires that they've made. So it's all kind of trickles down. This is really, it's a unique time that we live in, that I don't think this genie will go back into the bottle. I think the recognition of what we bring, what people of color bring to a workplace, to an agenda, to training, to speaking opportunities, I think it's real. And it's just a matter of us stepping forward with confidence, and as Pam said, with excellence, so that they have no reason to turn us down and to turn us away.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, Brian, every time you ask me to come on, you know, I always tell you, whenever I'm with the BSN family, I got to keep it real and I got to be transparent, because I'm talking to us. So this is Professional Speakers Day. We're professional speakers. We're business individuals. So number one, if you're going to take advantage of the opportunity that's out there, I tell all of my students, number one, you're building a business. You're building a business. This is not a hobby. This is not a side hustle. This is a business. Brian, you mentioned that for most of us, we're first generation entrepreneurs, first generation business owners. We have no clue of what that means. So your first journey is to find out, what does it mean to be a business individual? Do I have a banking business account? Not my kid's account, not my spouse's account that has the better credit, but do I have a business account? Do I have an accountant? Are my taxes, do I have the right infrastructure? Do I need to be a LLC, or do I need to be an S Corp? Your job is to figure this out. Someone said it earlier. There is no excuse for not knowing when you can Google everything. How do I start an LLC? How do I register my business? So that's number one. If you're going to take advantage of this industry, is to make sure you learn and become a student of the industry. And then let's stop lying to ourselves. I see this a lot in our community. We're very emotional. We're very emotional and we're not rational, right? So number one, this industry provides a great opportunity. You don't need a license to be a speaker. You don't need a certificate to be a speaker. You don't need any certification. So that means this is a great opportunity for you to get into an industry that will provide you a great living. So what does a great living mean? I tell all of my students, okay, what's your number? What's your operational number? What does it take to operate your lifestyle? How much do you need to finance your life? And then we're going to build a business that supports that choice. So for you, it may be, you know, $4,000 a month, $48,000 a year, wherever you may live. That may be great. You may live in Biloxi, Mississippi, 48,000. You're living like a queen. You're living like a king. So let's get off this emotional roller coaster of, I want to be a 100K speaker. I want to be a million speaker, $1 million speaker. What do you need for your family to thrive? And that number is going to be different. But then at the end of the day, guys, the opportunities that's out there, for 45 minutes, an organization, a school, a college, a church will pay you $1,000 plus to speak. Come on, stop playing. Come on, stop playing. $1,000. If you do that 4 times a month, you do that 5 times a month. You can, I hate to use this terminology, but there's a sucker born every second, right? You can find a chiropractic office who wants to inspire their team. They'll give you $1,000. You do that 5 times a month, that's $5,000. That's $60,000 a year. Most parts of the world, most parts of America, you're doing all right. To speak for 5 hours a month, to not be in traffic every single morning, going to a job that you hate, hanging around people that you don't like, for you to be able to create your own opportunity, you got to take this thing serious. You got to take this thing serious, and you can't play with it. When Norma started, she'll tell you, man, there was no Facebook. There was no Instagram. There was not all these free services where you can get your voice out. There's 9.8 billion people in the planet. You need about 1,000 of them. If you're coaching, you need about 1,000 of them to vibe with you. I don't need the whole world to like Dr. Will. I don't need the whole world to like Dr. Will. I need about 1,000 people in my ecosystem. This month, 100 of them are buying my program. 200 of them are buying my book. 100 of them are coming to my live event or coming to my webinar. You keep circling and keep serving. Right? The Bible says, if you're faithful over the few, he'll make you ruler over the many. A lot of you talking about you want to reach the world and you're not even reaching your backyard. Nobody in your backyard knows you, but you want to be international. But if I asked you, do the 50 companies in your 10-mile, 20-mile radius know about you, know about your brand, know about how you're serving? Do they know you? But you want to go to Uganda, you want to go to Italy, you want to go to Europe, and nobody even know you down the street. So if we're going to take advantage as Black speakers of this opportunity, no license needed, no certification needed. You can wake up one day and say, God told me to go reach the world, and you can go do it. Like, I'm so inspired now with the opportunity that's there. Jesus built a worldwide ministry, a worldwide organization without Twitter, without Instagram, without Facebook, without YouTube, without Google. And we have all of this at our disposal, but you just got to get focused and treat it like a business, run it like a business, and you can build something magnificent.
Brian,
Listen.
I'm going to
Yep.
have to, I have to leave early, so I'm going to have to say goodbye. I have enjoyed this tremendously and enjoyed sharing and enjoyed the group. And I've met some new friends, and I'm going to be reaching out to a few that I haven't met and seeing some old friends. So it's been really, really very fascinating. So I appreciate you very much. And I invite everybody to look for me. Are we doing any plugs at all? Or just,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. Kick it off. Let people know how they can connect with you after today.
Thank you. I'm on LinkedIn, Norma Hollis, and I also want to encourage you to go to cashinonvoice.com because I have a webinar next Thursday called Amplify Your Authenticity and Cash In on Your Authentic Voice. So the things I've talked about today, I'll be talking about. And Brian, no problem. And cashinonvoice.com. And I look forward to seeing you. And then reach out LinkedIn, whatever. I'm just happy to talk to speakers, and I encourage you. One of the things I'm so impressed with the world now is that so many of you are so open to the elders sharing with you. That wasn't the case, and that there's so many vehicles for that to happen. So all of you will be elders at one day for somebody else. So make sure as you go, you keep pulling them forward and helping them understand, because you don't know what you don't know. And when you're young, particularly, you don't know what the next years are going to bring. But those of us that have come before you can help you see that and have perspective, so you can make sure you make the decisions that are going to be most effective for your authentic growth. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And
Thank you. Love you.
Thank you,
Thank
Norma.
you so much. So happy that you were able to join this conversation. We had Dr. Will with the mic drop moment. I thought it was Sunday. I'm like, okay, pastor, bishop, deacon, event. I heard it all. Like, it comes out, no matter what stage that you're on. So like Miss Hollis said, she just talked about how people can get in contact with her. I want to go kind of do a round robin whenever you want to jump in. We'll talk with Dr. Will. If people are like, oh my gosh, this panel was amazing, where can I learn more about Dr. Will and all his awesomeness? Where can they go to connect with you? Or if you have anything coming up that people can take advantage of, here's your place to share that.
Simply connect with me on all social media at Dr. Will Speaks, DrWillSpeaks, Dr. Will Speaks. That's the website. That's all the social media, drwillspeaks.com.
Love it. drwillspeaks.com. Pam Perry from PamPerryPR.com. Where can people go to find more about you? See that little plug?
How about that? PamPerryPR.com. How about that? That's where you find all things that talk about publicity. I have a program called Ready, Set, Go, Speak, where people learn about publicity. They learn about podcasting, publishing, all the things in order to build their platform before they really like, I think who it says, Norma says, you don't know what you don't know. So one of the things about the program is that when people go through it, it's like layers of the onion are being revealed to people. Like, wow, I didn't know that about publicity. So that is my program at PamPerryPR.com, as well. Also, it's getting Speakers Magazine there. I have a couple of people that have been covers that you kind of recognize there. Yay, let's do a screenshot. And those are the things that I do. I really promote speakers, but I want to make sure that they are ready set to go and really make the impact. So thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed this. Excellent, excellent. I see a couple of the branding accelerators on there. Yolanda was firing up the chat, as well as Dr. David Walker as well. So they are really doing the darn thing as well. And they're taking a lot of notes from you guys. So thank you all so much for having me. This has been fun for a Saturday.
Awesome. Dr. Helen, did you want to go let people know how they can connect with you after today's conversation?
Absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn. All social medias, Dr. Helen Holton. I'm out there. And I just want to thank Brian and Quinn for what you do and what you're doing, bringing it, helping us hold that space. And as the president of the National Speakers Association DC chapter, only the second time in their 41-year history has a Black woman led that organization.
Wow.
I am just humbled and esteemed to be the president and pushing the envelope for inclusion and for voices that are different than the traditional that have made up the organization that's been around for a very long time. History with Brian and Quinn. And so just look for me, drhelenholton.com, across social media. You will find me. Be on the lookout for my book that is coming out, the book that I started years ago. And finally, the Spirit said to me, the time is now, get busy. And so sometime early 2022, it will be in print. I said, I've written in enough other people's books. Let me get my own out there. And that's what I'm working on doing. So stay tuned, follow me, and the best is still yet to come.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Aurora Gregory, did you want to let people know how people can get in contact with you after today's conversation?
Yep, I would love to connect with people on social media. You can find me at Aurora Gregory across all social media platforms. So I'll be looking for friend requests and follows and LinkedIn requests. Would love to connect with all of you. If you were interested in my book, Get Picked, Tips, Tricks, and Tools for Creating an Irresistible Speaker Proposal, you can find that on Amazon. And then as Brian shared, we have a partnership with the Get Picked Speaker Toolkit. And there's some great tools in there for creating a speaker proposal with lots of prompts and tools and templates. And, you know, you can look to BSN to get connected with that. So this has been a great way to spend a Saturday morning. Brian, Quinn, thank you so much for having me, for being a part of this great panel, and for the continued partnership. It's really wonderful, and I'm super appreciative of it.
Awesome. Brian, I'm going to kick it over to you because, you know, in my opinion, you are the living legend of the voices of the future Black speakers. So anything that you have going on in regards to BSN, I mean, I know some of the stuff, but anything you want to let people know, I mean, hopefully they know how to contact you, but still, just for those new people who might have stumbled across this feed on a Saturday, like, what's going on? I need to be a part of that. And yes, definitely reference the Speak Up book, because I think a few of us have chapters in that. So Brian, what you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about everything. I mean, if you want to find me, just Google me. I mean, if you can't do that, then we probably don't need to talk. For Black Speakers Network too, because I mean, that's what it is. I mean, and when you do that, you'll see me and you'll see everybody else. You'll see, you know, articles that I've written in Speakers Magazine. You'll see kind of the amazing conversations. We have the Black Speakers Network podcast now. We just did like episode 11.
Yes.
So
where is that? Where do we see the podcast?
Their podcast is on every platform. Only thing we're not on yet is like iHeart, I think, but
okay.
Apple, Spotify.
Cool.
I mean, again, if you Google it, like, it's there. So I think, you know, in general, though, I am excited about this. I'm excited about the way I've seen Black Speakers Network over the last couple years. We started out, you know, providing information. So it was just like, hey, here's how you do this. And then that's where the Speak Up book came from. And then we was like, okay, maybe we need some resources. And so we created like platform partners, and everybody here is platform partners. So, you know, now we need people to help us implement. How do you do this? And that's where, you know, speaker websites made easy, and Speakers Magazine, and, you know, partnering with Dr. Will, Genius Speakers Academy is awesome. We just had a member sign up for that. Like, the tools that Aurora you put out. So we have a ton of resources to help you get started. And then the final piece of the puzzle was okay, where do I do that? And now that's speaking opportunities. And so I'm so proud that, we have a goal this year to put 1,200 speakers on stages. You can go to our website and see all the speakers that we booked so far this year. It is crazy. And we're not just curating opportunities, but also creating them. So opportunities like this, the podcast, the signature summits, everything that, we have the ability to do, going back into history of like, hey, we don't need to wait for a seat at the table or wait for anything. We can create that opportunity. And that's exactly what we're doing now. So we have our first summit or like industry specific summit, which is the Workforce Development Summit coming up at the end of this month. It is on August the 30th on a Monday. And we're going to be hosting industry specific summits every single month. So speakers who are members of ESN can apply to speak at those and just continue the dialogue. So, but this today has been so, like I said, I have so many notes. I'm looking and seeing all the impact. When everybody knows that you are the best MC out here on the market, I don't need to like sugarcoat it. Like, you are that person. So if you're looking for an MC, I mean, what else we need to talk about? But thank you for helping me curate this, partnering with me to curate such an amazing conversation. I want to thank each of you. Dr. Holton, so proud of the fact that you are leading NSA this year. The DC chapter is lucky to have you. Pam, our partnership has been just extraordinary. If you haven't checked out Speakers Magazine, make sure you do it. Dr. Will, you've forgotten more about speaking than most people know. So like anytime I have an opportunity to be in the same virtual or physical room with you, it's an honor. Aurora, you clearly have such a unique perspective on this space. And I can't wait to, continue to do more, put out more resources and tools that can help folks. And even though Norma has left, we were literally listening to one of the pioneers of, at least in the Black speaking space, but in speaking in general. So if you get a chance to listen to the replay of this, thank you again for, all the work that you've done and continue to do. So that's all I got to say.
Well,
She's
thank
from
you.
Detroit.
Yeah, she is amazing. And I just want to say, Brian, you have always behind the scenes have validated my voice. My book, Speak Black Woman, How Women in Business Can Profit from Public Speaking. Brian wrote the foreword. Like, he's a man, but that's how much I feel like his voice and vision is a part of my DNA. Like, when I got started, there wasn't many people who looked like me in my age bracket that I can really lean on. So Brian has definitely been a cheerleader and champion for me. So I'm just grateful that we were able to do this. And for all of you who are here, thank you for letting your voices out, because I mean, there's so many things that I know that I've learned from you and everybody who is watching. So you guys all got information on how you can connect with everyone on stage. If you guys want to stay connected with me, I am Quinn Conyers on all social media platforms. And if you're interested in turning conversations into cash, because believe it or not, the number one question that everyone's going to ask you is, what do you do or what do you speak about? So the way you answer that question should not be a boring or basic elevator pitch, but a verbal business card. And if you're interested to know what that is, just shoot me a message and I can send you a link over to my next masterclass that is happening on Friday, August the 20th. So with that being said, Brian, do you have anything you want to wrap it up, or do you want me to just take it home?
Take it home.
Okay, y'all. Well, listen, this was our very first collaboration of Speak Black Woman and the Black Speakers Network on Professional Speakers Day, which is honored and acknowledged on August the 7th. And we wanted to bring you diverse voices in the speaking industry, but have a special focus and emphasis on Black voices. So if you are here, if you've been listening, you are in the right place. Your voice matters. It is time to articulate your awesomeness. It is time to verbalize your value. And if you don't know where to get started, you got a Dr. Helen Holton to hold your hand. You have a Pam Perry. You have Black Speakers Network. You have Dr. Will Moreland. You have Aurora Gregory. You have Norma Hollis, and you have me. We are a tribe. We are a community. And at the end of the day, you need to speak up because your audience awaits. On behalf of Speak Black Woman and the Black Speakers Network, we thank you so much for joining us for our very first Professional Speakers Day. Have a great and awesome, amazing Saturday. Talk to you soon.